It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press. A lot of different topics today. We've been talking about the NBA, some elimination games last night. We have more elimination games tonight. And these games have been great. The ratings have been great. The games have been close. We've had some drama. And even though some series are already done, they were still pretty interesting and compelling. But will we see any series extended tonight? 4 games on the schedule tonight. 3 of the 4 are elimination games. And on doubleheader on NBA TV and doubleheader on TNT. First game getting underway about now. We're also talking about Utah State basketball. Nigel Burris officially introduced today by the university. And it looks like a potential target of Coach Danny Sprinkle, trying to get a former player to follow him to Logan. Didn't quite work out. Raekwon Battle looks like he's headed to West Virginia. Aggies miss out on that. The New Mexico State Aggies, in a lot of mess. They had a shooting, they had hazing, a lawsuit filed against the university. So I'm kind of glad Utah State's not having to make any trips to Las Cruces and deal with that campus and that culture there. It was always kind of weird. There's a history of problems with that New Mexico State, specifically in basketball, but not a good situation there. And then there's continuing to kind of wrap our heads around what's going on at Colorado, and Deion Sanders, when he arrived on the scene, he walked in, and his first meeting with the existing team was to basically tell them, all you guys are bums, and I'm going to find some new players. Because the Buffaloes had not had very many successful seasons. They were not a good football team. And Deion Sanders comes in there and says, you guys aren't cutting it. Taking a little bit out of context to a degree, but the essence was there. If you're not going to get onto my train here and what we're trying to build, then you're going to be asked to leave. We're going to find some replacements.
Yeah, and I know that was.
Oh, well, I was just saying. Then as spring went on and concluded for Colorado, a lot of players entered the portal.
Yeah, the pessimistic interpretation was that I'm going to kick all of you bums off the team, and I didn't necessarily think that was what he was saying. But the thing is, time seems to prove that pessimistic view of things more right.
Right, that's true. As time has now passed, and we're a couple of months after those initial statements, and you see now what's happened over the last week and a half, it's like, okay, he wasn't messing around. That's really what he meant.
Yeah, because a lot of players are at least reporting that they were told to transfer. Like, all right, get out of town. And he's going to be bringing in his own set of players, and I don't know if that's going to work out for Deion. He feels like he's the guy who is, thinks he's the bee's knees. We all know about Deion Sanders' ego, and he certainly backed it up when he played football. Now in coaching, he seemed to do pretty well at was it Jacksonville State?
Yeah,
and did pretty well there. Comes to Colorado and says, "All right, I'm smarter than everyone else in the room. I'm Coach Prime. He wears all of his own gear. Saw the pictures of him from the spring game. He's wearing like a cowboy hat, sunglasses, a jacket that says Prime on it, and he's like, I'm the smartest guy in the room, and whatever I say is gold, and I'm gonna kick all these guys out, bring in all my own guys. I know exactly who I need to recruit. All my prospects are going to be pure gold, and we're going to go undefeated this year. Feels like that's the kind of guy who's rolling into town. I'll tell you what, that does not work very often. That kind of in any industry.
Oh, it got the fan base excited. I mean, they had a huge showing for their spring game, 40,000 plus in their arena. They didn't get that kind of crowd at any point during the regular season. And so there's definitely some excited energy among that Colorado fan base. But there's going to be some pressure on him for the comments that he's made and kind of the way he's conducting business. And the other thing, too, to look at this is to ask, is he really marshaling in a new era of college football where it's like any other business? You try to hire the best talent, and if you have people on your staff that aren't cutting it, you fire them. You couldn't really fire players who you recruited. You could help counsel them to transfer somewhere else, but you were pretty much stuck with who you had. But the way that Sanders is conducting business at Colorado, it's like wholesale changes here, and this is this isn't college football that we've all come to know and love and appreciate. We talk about players transferring and being upset about that, but we've got the other side of the table here too, where the coach is like, you're not going to cut it here. You need to leave. You need to transfer out. So it's a two-sided coin, and we like to kind of get all upset about the players and what they're doing, but are we going to be equally upset about what a coach is doing? And is this marshaling in a new era of how a coach handles his roster, or is this just a one-off situation?
I think the question really is how successful is he going to be? And you might only see this when, a guy's taking over a program that struggled, especially Power 5 programs that struggle. A team like Colorado, and if you had a high-profile guy going into Vanderbilt, you might do the same thing, or just name any, beleaguered Power 5 program. I know that sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but if he's successful, maybe. Because success breeds imitation.
Oh, yes.
So if he's successful, we might see people do this. But the thing is, when people do this in business, it doesn't always work. At least not, some people will buy a business, get in, fire everybody, but they basically just build a new business. It's not going to work in sports. You don't walk in, fire everybody, in sports, like get rid of your roster, bring in a new roster, and suddenly find success. That's very rare. Like, it's really hard to bring in just an entirely new team, an entirely new staff or whatever, and just be successful. And so Deion Sanders, whether or not this kind of thing catches on is very much going to depend on how successful he is. If he completely flames out, then I don't think any coach is going to have the guts to do what he did again, because Deion is already just about facing the social media firing squad over what he's doing. There's articles and reports, and everyone's getting on his case about how they're talking about how terrible a person he is for all the stuff he's doing, and a lot of it's kind of overblown. It's stuff that some of the stuff is not necessarily out of the ordinary, but every little thing is getting reported now that potentially puts him in a bad light, and that's going to put tons of pressure on him. It's going to cause a ton more scrutiny. It's going to make his job harder. He won't get as much credit for his successes. His failures will be blown out of proportion, and it could get him fired, that kind of scrutiny. But if he is successful, it all goes under the window and everyone starts saying, well, it worked, so maybe we'll do it again.
Right. And if it can work at a place like Colorado, think how it could work at somewhere like Ohio State or Alabama.
Well, Ohio State doesn't need it, though. When a new coach walks into Ohio State and it's a roster full of 5-star recruits.
Well, I guess that's true.
So that's why I say you might only see it as much at a Colorado and a Vanderbilt and a
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. Just any program that's not done super well in football. But a
Power 5 school nonetheless.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe somebody would try to do it, maybe somebody go from Power 5 and try to do it at a G5, say, all right, get all you scrubs are going to fill this roster with former Power 5 guys. Maybe somebody tries that. But if Coach Sanders just absolutely fails, then I don't know if any coach would have the guts to do that, because Coach Sanders could end up getting fired for the type of scrutiny he brings on. And you think someone aside from Deion Sanders is going to be able to survive the kind of scrutiny and the kind of, the strays that he's taking right now? Imagine if Blake Anderson walked into Utah State and just kicked everybody to the curb and said, I'm going to bring a new team in. And, everyone's transferring. And you hear all the reports of players, saying, oh, the coach is being mean and doing this and that. You're only going to be able to get away with that if you can prove this kind of thing works. And we're going to have to wait and see.
Number of your texts coming through. Would love to get more. 435-339-0321. By the way, 8003. How about that Ridgeline versus Mountain Crest soccer game last night? Everything you want in a region championship battle. In my opinion, the difference was Ridgeline inability to finish and a great goalkeeping performance from Mountain Crest.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be able to broadcast that game. It was a 0-0 game through regulation and overtime. Ended up going to penalty kicks. And yeah, despite the fact it was 0-0, I agree with 8003 that it was a great game, and I think his analysis is just about spot on. Ridgeline had more chances. Had the best chances. Some of those, there were great saves by, I believe, Jackson Oki, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Very good performance, couple of wonderful saves. And funnily enough, in penalties, he kicked the final penalty. And they only had 5. They didn't go to the extra, penalties. He was the 5th penalty kick taker. And he finished it. He finished the left-footed kick, so he had the great goalkeeping performance, and then had the winning penalty kick.
Wow!
So it was a pretty good game. I had the very, very great pleasure of broadcasting that game.
If you want to go back and see it, it's on CashValleyDaily.com. It's archived. You can go back and rewatch that, or if you missed it, watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
9315 texting in. How long will? Let's see. There's a text before that. At one time, wasn't there someone that transferred to Mountain Crest from Skyview because of hazing? Yes, that happened in the mid-90s, the big major incident that of hazing that took place, and he did transfer to Mountain Crest. Yeah, it was an ugly incident. And then when Mountain Crest played Skyview in football the next year, he got a little over-exuberant on some of his tackles from his former teammates. Yeah, it was an interesting time. Also, how long will kids from aluminum players? How long?
I don't know.
Will kids from aluminum players put up with that stuff?
I'm sorry, you lost me.
How long will kid from aluminum players put up with that stuff? I don't know. 1344. Deion Sanders is one of 2 players to score a touchdown 6 different ways, but as a coach, he's a little bit of a liability, in my opinion.
Well, he did pretty good at his previous stop. I mean, didn't he land a 5-star recruit at, Jacksonville State?
Yeah, he was pulling highly rated players that could have gone to some P5 schools, but at the very least, good G5 schools. And he was winning some of those recruiting battles to a school that didn't even play at the same level.
Yeah, and I think, weren't they in some championship game for their division?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a decent track record so far. This isn't just hiring Deion Sanders off the street with no coaching experience. So calling him a liability right now I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But what he's doing at Colorado right now, it does feel like it's raising alarm bells. So maybe he should go back to Jacksonville. Did he do that there too? Did he do the same thing there? I didn't follow him.
He had success. Stop. That's all I know.
So that's the thing. Did he do the same thing there and have it work? Because if he did, then I don't know. Is this a Coach Deion Sanders thing? But yeah, the whole question is, does this work or not? If it doesn't work, then you can just put this method to bed, and people probably aren't going to be bold enough to try it again. And maybe he is a liability. Maybe he's getting too in over his head. So we've talked about how coaches, they do well at smaller levels. Okay, go to a bigger level and do the same thing. You got to be able to win the big recruiting battles. You got to bring in, because like 90% of college sports is recruiting. Matt Wells did well enough at Utah State, could recruit well enough there. Couldn't do it at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Gary Anderson struggled. A lot of P5, a lot of G5 coaches go to P5 and they can't hack it because it's just a different game. Deion Sanders did very well recruiting and just having better players than everyone else he was playing against at Jacksonville State. I'm only like 95% sure it's Jacksonville State, so I'm hoping that's it, because otherwise I've been wrong like 6 times in this whole rant. But is he going to do the same thing at Colorado? Can he recruit better players than everyone else in the Pac-12? And when you're in the Pac-12, you got to be able to recruit better players than everyone else, because then you're on the national stage.
Right.
You got to go against the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC and the ACC, and I might have missed one, but all those conferences, you got to be able to out-recruit them too. It's why Nick Saban's a legend. He's out-recruited everyone in the country. And it's why he's freaking out about NIL, is because he can't out-recruit everybody in the country
That's
anymore.
right. That's right. Now somebody has different advantages than him. The other thing, I'm pretty sure that's going to swing back to his favor anyway.
Yeah, probably, because he'll get a ton of money, and then he'll, once again, be able to out-recruit everyone in the country. So,
let's see, 8968 texting in. That type of coach, such as Deion Sanders, is the type of person you hope falls on his face.
sometimes, yeah. Like, again, when I saw the pictures of him, it's like, this guy's way into it himself. Like, way into himself. Like, everyone's kind of into themselves, like, like, everyone's got an ego. But then there's the guys that are, wearing their logos and dressing, styling, and just calling themselves, I'm Coach Prime. And it's like,
Refer to yourself in the third person all the time.
it's like, that's a little too much, man. Like, you're really going over that line. And maybe that's part of what the reaction to him right now on social media is, where people are starting to gang up on him, and they're not piling on him and like canceling him, so to speak, but it's the first inklings, the people leaking stuff about, is he who he really is behind the scenes? Is he actually a terrible person? The kind of stuff that hints at that.
Yeah.
And that's the first stage, and you're seeing that where maybe he's rubbing some people the wrong way with what he's doing.
But there's also been reports that have come out here recently, because that caught a lot of people's attention, like, oh my gosh, what's going on in Colorado? And as more people started to research it and ask questions, there were a lot of these players who were told, like, we will honor your scholarship, you're just not going to play. But if you want to play, you should transfer. And so being very frank, very honest, but not leaving them out to dry. And that's where it is a little bit different than maybe in the business world, where if you've got an employee who's not cutting it, you don't keep paying him and have him, even if he's not coming to work, I mean, you let him go.
Yeah, you let him go, and you may or may not even give him severance, depending on how much of a jerk you want to be.
Right.
If you're really cutthroat. So yeah, that's why, like, when I say people are starting to gang up on him, it may or may not be justified. But that's what's happening. The perception of this kind of thing, and just the fact that if it wasn't Deion Sanders doing this, it wouldn't be getting nearly as much attention. If it was just so and so at whatever program, people would say, "Oh, there's so many people leaving," but it's Deion Sanders. So this may or may not be justified, but it's still happening. And fair or not, it's the kind of thing that I say could get him fired. Having this kind of perception that's being leaked about him. Now, even if he's doing these things basically the right way. Now, if you're going to have this kind of thing, you tell a person, be upfront. We don't have a place for you on this team. We'll honor all the things that we have committed to, scholarships and whatnot. But maybe you should transfer. But either way, the perception isn't going right now because of what he's doing. People don't like this kind of, way of building a roster and rebuilding a team. It goes against what people have believed about how you should build a roster. And it's going to have a negative impact on how people perceive him, fair or not.
Or maybe he's just ahead of the curve.
Yeah, maybe he is. Like, that's the thing. If this works,
The way that the landscape is changing.
yeah, if it works, as I said at the beginning, success breeds imitation, and people will keep doing it. If it doesn't work, people are going to see it as a failed system. One person may come in and try it again because they want to be the bold visionary. And you're going to have these kind of people. And with NIL and with the transfer portal, and if we don't get a handle on transfers and it keeps being a free-for-all, we're going to have more of these guys that are just going to say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring in all these players. And it may end up, and I only had this thought like in the middle of the segment, where it may end up being more successful at a G5 program. You know, with Colorado, it's really hard to get those top-of-the-line recruits just sitting around. Mm-hmm. But let's say somebody walks into Utah State, some former P5 coach, walks in and says, I am the savior of this program, and he boots everybody to the curb, and he brings in like 30 P5 transfers. Like, he may try and do that and may think that's the path to success, and it may work for some school. Because maybe he's a good coach, and he just brings in players that are just more talented than everyone else in the Mountain West. And maybe it works. And then suddenly G5 gets completely thrown on its head, where maybe a G5 program brings in a very charismatic coach who's able to draw in, because you can't just bring in any Joe can say, I'm going to bring in Power 5 recruits. But if you get the right coach, they might be able to pull off this method at a G5 school. It just might be a little harder for Deion to pull it off at Colorado. But if anybody can pull it off at a P5L, it's probably Deion.
It's probably Deion. I mean, you got to be a big talker, big recruiter, opportunity to get extra exposure and attention that's unearned, and because he gets that.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's just got a lot of gravity. Like, it's Deion Sanders. Like, that's a name everybody in football knows. Even people not in football know who Deion Sanders is. So it's like if Tom Brady decided to become a coach, he could recruit just about everyone he wanted. Every quarterback prospect would want to play for Tom Brady. So I think the 5-star guy that he got at Jacksonville State was a corner or a defensive back. Of course, every corner loves Deion Sanders. They probably all idolize Deion Sanders.
He was a god at that position. More on that. We got more of your texts coming through. We'll get to those. If you want to weigh in, we'd love to hear from you. 435-339-0321.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006. Rely now on a York Affinity Premium Comfort System to keep your home cool and comfortable. The new Affinity systems are smarter and more connected and more efficient than ever before, and you can cut your energy costs by as much as 50%. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, to schedule a free system evaluation. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning showroom is west of DI and online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
This is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. We are humbled by and grateful for the tremendous support we have been shown since opening our doors nearly 2 years ago. So we just want to say thank you. On behalf of everyone at White Pine, first and foremost, thank you for allowing us the honor and privilege of serving you and caring for your loved ones. Additionally, thank you for voting White Pine the best mortuary in Cache Valley in both 2021 and 2022.
White Pine Funeral Services. Here when you need us most.
Put your logo on a hat, on a t-shirt, a mug, or a water bottle. The Logo Shop can do that. The Logo Shop can logo pens for your business, t-shirts for your crew, uniforms for your school or team. Your logo proudly displayed on hats for your workers, backpacks for your class, jackets for your employees, golf balls for your buddies. They can put your logo on just about anything. Get your spring and summer orders in now to the Logo Shop.
The Logo Shop. The Logo Stop. The Logo Shop.
This is The Herd.
Attention listeners.
With Colin Cowherd.
Kim Mulkey is the coach of LSU. People think she's obnoxious, and I would admit she does dress like a disco ball. But my entire life, fans support male coaches who are schmucks, who bully. Well, her players love Kim Mulkey when she gets in the book deal.
This is The Herd. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Cinco de Mayo Festival coming up soon. And yes, it will be on May 5th. That is the day for Cinco de Mayo. And it'll be at the Cache County Fairgrounds. A lot of food trucks on hand, music, a lot of different vendors. Take your time, spend some time, have some fun with the family. It'll be taking place at the Cache County Fairgrounds on May 5th. So mark your calendars, celebrate Mexican heritage here in Cache Valley on May 5th. So we had discussion about Deion Sanders, some of his comments about his team. A lot of players entered the transfer portal, even players who were used and made big plays in their final spring scrimmage. Dynamic players the next day or 2 days later put their name in the portal, said they're on their way out. So places like Utah State, who has a lot of openings, I'm sure are reaching out to a lot of these guys to try to get them here. But is it marshaling in a new era where we've talked a lot about how we get upset with players' movement in this new transfer portal era, but what about coaches and blowing up their roster because they don't like how their players are cutting it and just remaking their roster and basically hiring and firing? They don't like your performance or your attitude or whatever else. They're treating them like employees. That creates a whole other ball of wax with
people getting
other issues.
People getting, I guess, counseled out, is that the term? Being told that they should transfer is not something new. Happens all the time.
Yeah, true.
What's unique here with Colorado is the volume. Are people going to do it at this volume again? Maybe, maybe not. Like I said, it just depends on whether or not he's successful. And is there going to be another coach that's like this charismatic, this, egotistical? For better or worse, Deion Sanders got a big ego. It helped him, I guess you could say, in the NFL. And it's helped him in terms of being a recruit. He's a huge extrovert. He's very charismatic. Got a lot of gravity to him. People are drawn to him. And he's the kind of person that can maybe pull this off. Because it's easy to throw everyone out the door, but you got to get people to come back in.
Yeah, that's true. There's a pretty big assumption there that he's got guys that he can get that will be better than those that he is showing the door. A couple texts coming through. 4781, unrelated to your topic. If I wanted to get into sports talk, where would you say I should start? It's a good question.
Yeah, it can be tricky to get into a radio show. I got lucky. Spot opened up. I jumped in on it.
Right time. Knew the right people.
Honestly, starting your own podcast is usually the way to go.
Internships, if you're in high school or college, take full advantage of opportunities to do internships. Even if you're not in high school or college, if you're beyond that, be willing to just come down and be willing to job shadow. Because it's obviously you have to know your stuff, but it's also who you know and who knows you.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
That is a big thing. And so you combine, like you said, you can start your own podcast. That can get you something you can at least be recognized and get some practice. But, yeah, knowing people really helps. Because the thing is, when this job opened up, I saw Eric posted it on LinkedIn, I think. But I just texted him because I had his number because I got my foot in the door 6-7 years ago by doing did play-by-play for a season for Mountain Crest basketball.
That's right.
And so I had met Eric, he'd met me, and I texted him. I said, hey, I want to apply for the job. I knew Eric. I wasn't going in blind. So that is one thing, is getting your foot in the door. That's gotten me several opportunities, including this one. But yeah, putting stuff out there, because I know with Eric, like, we knew each other, but I'd also been doing stuff for the last, 6-7 years in between when we first met.
Right. Which made a big difference.
Yeah, so getting volume out there and getting yourself noticed. It's like if you job shadow or if you start a podcast, it's reaching out to people. Get your foot in the door in as many places as possible.
Yeah, and sometimes that might be doing things on evenings or weekends.
That's the whole
out on location at a ball game somewhere.
That's sports. It's evening work.
Yeah, being willing to carry somebody's gear for a while.
Yeah. You can come carry my gear. I dang near feel like I have a heart attack sometimes. I've had to carry that gear like half a mile sometimes. Holy cow. If that doesn't get me in shape, nothing will.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Saw a few things when I was at the Broadcasters Convention in Las Vegas, trying to find ways to slim down our total broadcast package of gear.
Start by slimming down me.
Well, there's not a whole lot I could do about that. A couple more texts. Let's see, 4781. I'll carry your gear, Jason, easier than carrying groceries into the house.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You just see the gear when I'm all loaded up. It's 2 big old bag loaded with stuff, carrying a tripod. I'm using all my hands plus the extra. But yeah, I know that's part of why Al ended up hanging it up, is carrying the gear was not easy for him.
Yeah, it was getting a little tough. 9315. With his correction, sent in a text that we just did not understand. He meant to say, and I'll paraphrase here, kind of filling in the gaps. How long will kids that have left the football team at Colorado, like alumni players, put up with that stuff, with what's going on in Colorado? Well, if the football team becomes better and they're winning games, then they'll be happy for it. Like if it's part of the process of making my alma mater better, then okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that this method only gets accepted if it works. If it doesn't work, throw it out the window. People won't go for it because, like I said, it's bringing in a lot of scrutiny and a lot of negative attention and negative reporting and negative reports. If there's success, well, it works. Success just it gets rid of all ills. If you're winning tons of game, everyone ignores the negative, which is sometimes a bad thing. Think Penn State. But if it works, then Deion's going to get away with this kind of thing. And maybe somebody else will get away with doing it somewhere else. Either, as I said, either another P5, or I think more likely it's some G5. Where some charismatic guy comes in, says, I'm the savior of the program, boots everybody out, brings in his recruits his guys.
Right. Let's see, also 9315. Nobody on a national stage is highlighting all the players leaving USU because we don't have Deion. It's also not a P5 school. But, yes, Deion brings a lot of attention to himself.
Yeah, it's a combination of it being Colorado and Deion.
Yes.
There would still be, people would note Colorado having this kind of, exodus. But the fact that it is Deion is creating a social media stir.
Right.
Other than a side note on like ESPN.
5654, isn't that what Coach Anderson did? Bring in a lot of transfers and won the Mountain West?
He did bring in a certain amount. Well, keep in mind, a lot of the offensive line, several of the at least one of the wide receivers, actually, I think 2 of the wide receivers were on the team before. Or were all of them? No, Brandon Bowling.
Came from Arkansas State.
Derek Wright, Devin Tompkins were both on the team.
Yep.
Most of the offensive line was on the team. Quarterback was a transfer. Vaughns was on the team. He was a transfer. I think Joyner, was he on the team as well at that point?
No, he came as a transfer.
Vaughns was he a transfer on the team for that championship team?
Yes.
Yeah, and then there were other transfers, but there were a lot of players that were around. He probably brought in a normal amount of transfers.
Well, the difference here is, yes, he did bring in P5 transfers, which the number of P5 transfers that came to Utah State, Hunter Reynolds is another one.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little high for Utah State's history because Gary had brought several transfers from Utah.
Yeah, he did that all the time.
He attracted several of those, Nick Henninger, a few others. But it was seemingly a high number for USU. The major difference here is Blake didn't show up and, like, I'm bringing all these guys with me, and some of you other guys need to make room for them because you're not cutting it.
Yeah, he didn't.
I looked at the tape. You only won one game last year, and you don't look good, so I'm upgrading the roster. No, it was this team has some holes to fill. I'm going to do what I can to fill these holes.
Yeah, and he brought guys in from a variety of places. He brought in several guys from Arkansas State, quarterback, wide receiver, one linebacker didn't end up playing. Was Anthony Switzer?
No, it wasn't Anthony Switzer.
I guess he was already. He came to the year after.
That was later. It was, because he played at Fresno State before that. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. He was a great linebacker.
Rice. It was Rice.
Yes, thank you, Rice.
Yeah, so he brought in guys, but yeah, it was more filling holes. It wasn't completely replacing the roster. It was, filling holes, which is typical of Utah State to do. Maybe a bit normal. The transfers are maybe a bit more successful than normal, which is also probably why they won a championship, because the transfers they had were more successful than normal.
Well, and I think there was a sense that the team, the roster that was there for Utah State the season before grossly underperformed and was far more talented than what the results indicated. And just give them a little bit more direction, give them a little bit more hope, and then you're going to get a lot more results. Because there was a lot of stuff that was messed up going on with that team that fall of 2020. All right, timeout here in the Full Court Press. A few more texts coming in. We'll have to get more from you. 435-339-0321.
With inflation at record highs, why buy new if you can repair your current machine? Daryl's Appliances factory-trained technicians spend hundreds of hours in training each year to ensure your appliance is repaired right the first time. You can have peace of mind. They offer no-risk service, meaning if you want to purchase new, instead of repair, you can apply up to $95 of your service call towards an appliance purchase. See store for details. Daryl's West on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
Spend less time at the post office. With Formax and Mint mailing systems from Les Olson IT, you can quickly, accurately, and easily process your outgoing mail and even save on postage. Fold your documents, stuff and seal your envelopes, print addresses, weigh and measure to apply proper postage, all with the click of a button. With multiple model options available, you're sure to find a Formax solution and Mint mailing device that perfectly fits your business needs.
Les Olson IT.
You may have heard that Schreiber Foods call their employees partners. Why? Because our partners own the business. You see, Schreiber Foods is the largest dairy company in the world to still be privately owned. And when you own something, you treat it differently. You help others. You care about your team. You don't answer to anyone outside the company or an investor that has no interest in you or the business. So if you're looking for stable employment, ready to be a part of and own something bigger, visit schreiberfoods.com/careers.
Looking for a stable career with great pay, benefits, and a positive work environment? This is Justice Lewis with Homestead Cabinets in Hiram. We produce high-quality, state-of-the-art custom cabinetry and are looking for employees who want to become skilled craftsmen. Work Monday through Friday with weekends off. Wages start at $16 per hour with opportunities for growth as you gain experience. Benefits include daily free breakfast and monthly profit sharing. Homestead is a company that values its employees. They emphasize growth of the individual as well as the company. Go to homesteadcabinet.net/careers and apply today.
Hey everyone, it's Kim with the Logan City Police Department. It's finally springtime and our cat chipping clinic is back. We are teaming up with the Animal Sciences of Bridgerland Technical College to host this event. It will be held Saturday, April 29th from 11 to 1 at the BTEC West building, located at 1410 North and 1000 West. Pre-registration is $10 and can be done by calling 435-716-9300. Walk-ins are also welcome for $12 per chip. Remember, all cats must be in carriers and have proof of rabies vaccination.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. If you missed it, we had a great soccer game play out on CashValleyDaily.com, also on 107.7 KLZX. Just kind of got this finalized. Going to be doing a lacrosse game tonight.
Yep.
Skyview at Ridgeline.
Two teams, I believe, at the top of the lacrosse standings. I have to admit, I'm not really following lacrosse. I will be there. I'm not calling the game. I'm going to be there as kind of tech support.
Yeah, we got some former players of who played lacrosse in the Valley who are going to get their first experience in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, they both know lacrosse very well, and they'll get their first experience of broadcasting.
And then we got softball tomorrow.
Yeah, softball on Thursday. A lot of Ridgeline this week, which isn't.
It's not by design.
Yeah, I don't want to highlight one team, but some of this is availability of our broadcasters. Another is Ridgeline seems to be just good at every sport, and we're at the point where there's a lot of crucial games, and so we've got Ridgeline softball on Thursday facing. I think we've got Ridgeline against Bear River on Thursday and Friday. Thursday softball, baseball on Friday. So those of you like Ridgeline, you're welcome. Those of you who may not be into Ridgeline, I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention.
Other teams are involved, though, obviously.
Yeah, we've gotten pretty much every team involved in some degree or another in our broadcasts. But yeah, Ridgeline just seems to be a common thing.
But those will be video streamed on CashValleyDaily.com, streamed on the radio on 107.7 KLZX. So tune into those games coming on this week. And now that we've got decent weather, we've got our crews kind of settled, and then we've got our equipment kind of settled, we're hopefully able to carry more and bring more of these games to you for what's going on with spring sports throughout the area.
Yeah, especially once we're getting to the playoffs. That's the big hope.
Yes.
Is to be able to carry the playoffs and yeah, be able to feature these, a lot of very good team, especially soccer. Boys soccer is interesting because this is probably the most even I've seen the region, like in probably most sports. Other than I think there was basketball a few years back where there was like a 3-4-way tie for first place. This year, like we just had, I thought Ridgeline was going to carry it all, and then Mountain Crest comes back. They win yesterday, which puts them in the driver's seat. If they win Thursday, they win region. Ridgeline was going to be in the same boat. They win yesterday, they win Thursday, they win region, but. Yeah, I thought Ridgeline was probably the best team, but watched them lose a couple of times. Skyview, Mountain Crest, they lost to Green Canyon also in a shootout. A 0-0 shootout that they lost 4-3, just like yesterday. Guess that's the secret.
Amazing how that works. 9315, texting into the Full Court Press text line. How are things like what Dion is doing at Colorado going to affect high school players looking to play in college?
I don't know if it'll really affect anything because kids, they look for the best offer. Not exclusively, but like, if a kid gets a Power 5 offer and a bunch of G5 offers, might end up going to the P5. Is it the right decision for him? Maybe not, as far as him playing. But players will go to whatever they perceive as the best offer, the combination of, best team, chance to play, all that. And factors among these players will vary, but they'll choose a school. If they succeed, they'll stay. If they see a better opportunity, they'll move up. Like, these guys don't always make the best decisions for themselves the first time. They get stuck in a bad situation, they try and leave. So I don't know if this kind of thing is going to affect high school players' decision making, because high school players tend to be very shallow in decision making anyway. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying, you're 17 years old. You're probably not thinking the decision through as much as you think you are.
Right, and it's no longer an era of I'm committing to a school or an institution to be there 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. It's a 1-year commitment.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even a 1-year commitment.
as you tweeted out during the commercial break.
Yeah. So those of you who didn't see, I saw a tweet. Somebody tagged me in it. I didn't notice, even though I'm following the individual. Malone Mataele tweeted out just saying, entering the transfer portal, space exclamation point. He just barely retweeted it after I quote tweet. I'm saying I'm assuming this means he's entering the transfer portal. He didn't put out a statement or anything. Just says entering the transfer portal from the account that I assume is actually his account. So, yeah, and he actually just removed his... there was a part in his Twitter bio that said defensive back at Utah State University. He removed that part. So it seems like he's in the portal. Another loss. This is a guy who committed in December and is now gone.
That didn't last long.
Nope.
Jeez Louise.
That's
insane.
It is kind of getting ridiculous. I didn't think I saw him at the spring game. Was he actually there? I was looking for him. I didn't see him, but that's not necessarily because he wasn't there.
I don't remember.
Because I've looked for guys before and not found them, even though they're there.
I didn't specifically look for him.
I was trying to look for him. I was trying to go through the...
Let me pull out my roster.
Pull out your roster. Let me pull out my phone.
Is he on the list?
He's on the roster.
He is on the roster.
I looked like during the commercial.
The roster they gave us on Saturday.
Well, and he's on the roster on the website at the moment, or at least still on the. Well, yep, there he is.
So
I checked during the commercial break.
Show up to the press box Saturday, and I just feel for the sports information people up there with all this that's going on, because they're having to constantly update rosters, right? What stuff that's available. Player bios, things like that. It's constantly changing who is and isn't available. So anyway, get up there. I grabbed a roster on my way up because they were handing them out as people entered the stadium. But a couple other guys, we walked into the press box together, and Doug Hoffman, SID up there at Utah State, said, "Do you guys need a roster?" And someone's like, "No, I'm good. Unless anything's changed." He's like, "It's changing every day." Kind of tongue in cheek. He's like, "Oh yeah, I better take a roster then." So that's nuts. But you know what Blake Anderson said? There would be players who we will help transfer after the spring is all done here. There'll be a few more players who will transfer. He's made it clear there will be more. And I don't know if Malone Mataele was originally part of that plan, but he is now. By the way, we mentioned earlier that Chucky Keaton is headed to Marshall to be an assistant coach. And earlier on in April, as spring practices were getting underway, as Utah State released its initial roster, it was noticed that Chucky Keaton was not on the coaching roster. And a number of people were pinging both you and I, like, "Where's Chucky? Where did he go?" And Coach Anderson was asked about Chucky Keaton and why he wasn't on the roster. This is what he had to say.
I want to be careful about how I answer his leaving. I want to make sure I'm clear. Number one, I haven't announced it up to this point out of respect for Chucky. He was involved in a couple of coaching searches, opportunities that I wanted to give him as much time as possible to secure a spot. I know he's a legend here, as a lot of people call him, and he's a figure that everybody knows and loves, and I do too. And I don't want that to change. But I let Chucky go. It was my decision only. It was not forced upon me. Chucky made a decision off the field. He crossed the line between coach and player and a player's family. It's that simple. He's young and immature, and he made an immature mistake. I either had to stand in front of the team and say I was okay with the decision and the actions that he made, or that I didn't. And I didn't agree with it. It was a mistake. He lost the trust of our team and lost the trust of our staff. And it will not affect his future at all. He's going to go on to be great. He'll probably be the head coach here one day. And nothing should change or tarnish. But it wasn't possible to move forward as we were. You cannot keep a guy in the building that the players don't trust and staff members don't trust. And it's that simple. This had nothing to do with football. It was a personal decision. I did not want to let him go. I'd have done it in January if I was going to fire him. But this was my call as a head coach and a CEO. Is exactly what needed to happen. Our players have indicated to me they appreciate how I handled it, and we're going to move on for it. I wish him the best. Rodney Freeman's going to do a great job. I hate letting people go. It's the worst part of my job. But if I can't do it when it needs to be done, I don't deserve to be a head coach. It's that simple. So I'm not going to talk about it again. The details are up to him and his family and how he wants to handle it. It's not my deal. But yes, it was my call. There'll be a lot of people unhappy about that. My hate mail just got bigger. That's okay. But it was the right call at the right time for our team right now.
So there it is. For those who may have missed it, because this was on the Saturday of spring break, so I know I was out of town, but there were releases that were coming out about new running backs coach at Utah State, and caused some of us to raise an eyebrow. Well, I thought they had a running backs coach. And now we know today, looks like he has found a new spot at Marshall to be an assistant coach there. A quick timeout. More of your thoughts as we wrap things up here on the Full Court Press.
It's finally starting to feel like spring, so let Prodigy Brewing spring a delicious experience of flavor and fun into your world. Enjoy Cache Valley's juiciest burgers, tastiest nachos, flavor-filled wood-fired pizzas, and specialty craft brews. And did you know Prodigy Brewing offers an amazing brunch menu every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.? Whether it's lunch, dinner, or Sunday brunch, let Prodigy Brewing spring you into deliciousness. Book now for upcoming graduation parties. Prodigy Brewing, exceptional food, extraordinary service, and family-friendly on Center Street in downtown Logan.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. My wife and I were laughing the other day because she read an article about things not to buy online. The first thing was prom dresses. Dresses advertised versus dresses delivered. Needless to say, what people thought they were getting is not what they got. It's much the same with mattresses. Almost always, buying a mattress online ends in buyers being let down. At My Mattress, we try to always exceed expectations. Lower prices than online, and better beds. Only at My Mattress.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Actually, Jason making his way to Millville as he's going to be helping out do a broadcast of Ridgeline versus Skyview in boys lacrosse tonight. It'll be video streamed on CacheValleyDaily.com and on the radio on 107.7 KLZX. And of note, Kevin Mann and Hunter Jensen making their broadcast debut. They're former high school players who played lacrosse here in the Valley, helping us out with our coverage of high school lacrosse, and Jason will be there to help them get going on their foray into broadcasting. A couple other texts on the Full Court Press text line. This 9315 texting in. How are things like what Deion is doing at Colorado going to affect? Oh, sorry, we already read that one. There's another one. How are things like some leaving after only being here in December affect things like when they don't make the NFL and have to get a job that is a contract or never graduate with a degree because of the transfer portal and NIL? Yeah, certainly we are in an era where commitments are definitely different than when I grew up or what I understand a commitment to be. But chasing different opportunities and being able to stick it through and make something work just seems like a foregone or a bygone era, really. Also, 8577, too bad that Raekwon Battle didn't transfer here. Looks like he's going to West Virginia basketball. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show that he was standout player at Montana State. There was some hope that he might follow Danny Sprinkle to Utah State, but the list of suitors got longer and longer and longer after he put his name in the portal, and no surprise that he ended up at a P5 school, P6 school, however you want to say it, but at a notable program like West Virginia. So, yes, it is too bad. Would have been a great get for Sprinkle and making that transition to Utah State and the Mountain West. That's going to do it for us tonight here in the Full Court Press. Reminder, you can always go back and listen on the podcast feed, 1069thefan.com, or on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Back at it again tomorrow, starting at 4 o'clock. 1069 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, 1069thefan.com, and the 1069 The Fan mobile app.